Hey guys, welcome to the Playbook UX channel, your source for all things product and UX. In this video, I will be talking about recruiting participants for your user research session. You will learn who you should recruit for your session and also the different methods available to recruit those participants. Let's jump into how you recruit the right participants for your user research study. Finding the right participants can be both challenging and frustrating. Even the most experienced researchers have difficulty finding them, but once you've gotten it down to a science, you'll be able to replicate the process with ease. When recruiting the right participants, you should consider how much time you have, your budget, and how specific you need to narrow your audience. In this video, we'll demystify the process of recruiting the right participants for your qualitative UX study. Let's start by reviewing best practices on who you should recruit. When it comes to recruiting, you can either recruit a general population or a specific population for your study. A general population study is a randomized group of participants. This is a pool of people spanning multiple demographic, employment, and educational characteristics. If you are designing or researching for a new product or product line, you might not know who your target audience is. By running a general population study, you can see who your product or service resonates with. This is also good for any early-stage research. When you're looking for a general audience of participants, it's important to look for an assortment of people who span multiple demographic areas. A specific population study is when you identify common characteristics or demographics for your participants, such as women between the ages of 25 to 35 who work as front-end developers and use iPhones. Now, let's talk about when you should recruit a specific population for your study. If you're researching and designing for B2B products, it can often be significantly more challenging since you can't just speak to any participants to gain useful feedback. You'll most likely need to focus on refined areas such as job role, industry, size of the company, specific software tools that they use on the day-to-day. Really make sure you're honing in on specific demographics that you intend to target. Occasionally, you'll require your specific population to use a certain device such as iPhone or Android. For example, if you want to test the usability of an Android app, you're going to need participants who have experience using Android phones, because your end users will also have Android phones and you'll need to speak to people who are familiar with that operating system. For some research studies, the demographic filters might not be sufficient to get your specific population. In this case, you can write screener questions to get even more granular. Screeners are questions for vetting participants when you're recruiting for a specific audience. You can ask participants questions to determine whether they fit your criteria. For example, let's say you are running a test for QuickBooks, the accounting software, to learn about what improvements you should make to the product. In this case, you will most likely want to speak to current QuickBooks users, specifically bookkeepers. You can write a screener to see if someone has used QuickBooks in the last 6 months. Only participants that have used the software will qualify for the study. Now, let's dive into how you can recruit participants. There are a couple ways you can recruit participants. You can use a recruitment agency or panel company. You can use a UX software company. You can recruit from your company database, which stores current and prospective customers. You can utilize analytics softwares like Google Analytics. You can also use social media and event sites. You can recruit internally at your company. And lastly, you can recruit from family and friends. The first option is to work with a recruitment agency or panel company. When working with an agency, they'll help you find the specific participants you're looking for. However, it can often be costly and you may have to wait a while to receive qualified participants. When using an agency, you'll need to do due diligence. Check for past reviews. See if they're providing good quality participants. Ask them how they recruit. Do they have their own database of participants, or are they outsourcing to other panel companies? Panel companies can be tricky. They often use static data on participants and don't update information often. This may not be ideal, considering the average millennial has held 3 jobs in the last 5 years. The second way to recruit participants is to use software companies that specialize in recruiting. In this case, you can filter demographic criteria for your specific population, and the software will match you with the participants who applied for your project through a project board or an email blast. Typically, these UX softwares are very convenient and easy to use. Here at Playbook UX, we build software for user experience researchers and product managers. When choosing a UX software, you should look for certain functionality. First, the ability to filter by specific and granular data points. Second, you want to research how the company retains participant data. Make sure you're able to cross-check with dynamic sources such as LinkedIn, as opposed to static Excel spreadsheets. Third, you want to make sure you have the ability to send screener questions. The third way you can recruit participants is through accessing a database of your own product customers. You can find these customers through your company email list or checking with your development or sales teams to provide a list of your current customer base. A caveat to this method is that you might have trouble accessing those customers. However, if you do find a way to access those customers, this method can save you time and money. Once you have that list, you can send an email asking your customers to participate in a user research session and offer them an incentive. Cash usually works best. You should recruit your own users when you have a very specific study about your current product that you want to run. For example, let's say you're looking to test your product's onboarding process. You want to interview specific participants who have previously gone through that flow to see if there's any usability issues, or they can tell you the reason they didn't complete the sign-up process. The next way you can recruit users is by utilizing analytics softwares. You're probably familiar with analytics tools such as Amplitude, Pendo, Mixpanel, and Google Analytics. You can use these analytics softwares to recruit for specific actions taken by your customers. This can be very valuable for certain types of research. For example, if you want to understand why users are adding items to their shopping cart but are not completing the checkout, you want to pull a list of users who have in the last 30 days have put more than 2 items in their shopping cart and have not completed the checkout process. By utilizing the analytics software, you can ensure you are speaking directly to the people who have experienced the problem you are trying to solve. The next recruiting method you can use is posting on social media outlets like Reddit, Craigslist, and LinkedIn. It can also be helpful to post on specific threads associated with making money or usability testing on websites like Reddit, Quora, or public Slack channels. If you are really motivated, you can even attend meetups or events where you know your target population hangs out. Our next suggestion is to recruit internally within your company. If you're building internal software, you can recruit from your colleagues since they will be your end users. However, you may be introducing some bias since your colleagues may not want to be honest about their feelings since they see you every day. Lastly, you can recruit your family and friends. This can be a great low-cost solution. However, similar to recruiting internally within your company, you can be introducing bias since your mom or best friend doesn't necessarily want to hurt your feelings about a project they know you've been working really hard on. After you decide how you'll be recruiting, you'll need to determine if you want to complete your studies in person or remotely. The upside of running a remote study is that it's easier for testers since it gives them more flexibility and they don't need to travel to your location. Also, when testing remotely, you have the ability to broaden your geographic location that you're recruiting for. The downside of remote studies is that you may experience technical issues, or the participants may call in from less than ideal places, like a coffee shop with poor Wi-Fi. The upside to running in-person research is that you have the participants' full and undivided attention, and you have less risk of technical issues. The downside of conducting in-person research is that participants may have a hard time finding your location. Dealing with logistics for getting the participants to the location can be frustrating. It also limits the pool of people that you can recruit to nearby people, which is tricky when you need a very specific demographic. Next, let's talk about how many participants you should recruit. From the beginning of time, or at least from 8th grade statistics, we've all learned that the larger the sample size, the more accurate the results. That may be true for market research, but for UX, it's a different story. We suggest for all qualitative studies, you should use Nielsen-Norman Group's recommendation of 5 participants. Nielsen-Norman Group is a consulting firm known throughout the UX industry as the leader in best practices. Having 5 participants allows you to uncover the majority of the bugs, misconceptions, and issues with your product. If you feel you need more, you can always increase the number of participants, depending on your budget. However, you don't need endless interviews to get quality research insights. Lastly, adding an incentive as a sweetener is a great way to get participants to sign up for your study. Typically, for general population studies, you should plan for at least $1 per minute. If the participant has a more specialized role in their company or is very senior, you should consider an incentive that is $2 to $4 per minute. That's all I have for this video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel below for more insights on product and UX.